Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head over to Germany once again. We've got a really quite famous brewery to have a look at again today, and this is going to be my second review from them. So for this one we are going to go to the Schneider Weisse Brauhaus, or to give it its full name, Weisses Brauhaus G Schneider Sohn, and we have one of their kind of more sought after or special edition beers to have a look at today. So this one is the Tap X Nelson Sauvin. As the name suggests, it uses some of these lovely white grapey flavoured Nelson Sauvin hops from New Zealand. It comes in at 7.3% and it's a Weizenbock. Understandably on Rate Beer this guy is very highly rated. I think it's a 98 that it has and a 96 within the style, something around that. But as I always say, take Rate Beer with a bit of a pinch of salt, but I'm sure in this case it will be fairly accurate. This is a brewery that is, you know, really kind of intertwined, I guess, with German brewing tradition, and you're never really going to find a bad beer from them either. But I'm really excited to try this one because it is one of their more sought after beers, so I hope you guys enjoy my take on this one. And as always, if you are particularly interested in German beer, do please make sure you check out my friend Peter's channel, The Clueless Drinker. I'll put the link to that in the description below. He reviews a lot of the traditional beers as well as these kind of new wave German craft beers that are coming out, so do make sure you check him out. But anyway, as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you want to get straight to the tasting, of course, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from the Schneider Weisse Brauerei before. Hopefully I can add some more in the near future. This is only my second review from them. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the home page and search for beer based on country, city or state, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the German beers that I've reviewed for you before, and that's constantly being added to, and please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you, and the support that you give the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about the Schneider Weisse Brauerei then. So the brewery is actually another one of the very famous Weiss beer breweries that you're going to find in Germany. As I mentioned to you before, they were originally based in Munich, but they're now based in a town called Kelheim, which is a little bit to the north of the city of Munich itself. But the beers are very, very recognisable because of the names that they have. The Tap 1 to 7, although for some reason they do have a Tap 11 as well. They seem to have skipped out the 8 to 10. But they do have a Tap 11, and they also have the Tap X series as well, which seem to be their special beers that they do, of course, of which this is one. But the company was founded back in 1872 by Georg Schneider I, who was the first commoner granted the right to brew wheat beer by King Ludwig II of Bavaria. But the company has remained in the possession of the immediate descendants of Georg Schneider since its inception. But in 1944, the Allied bombing of Munich during the Second World War really damaged the brewing facilities quite badly, so the decision was taken by that Georg Schneider at the time to move the production to the current facility in Kelheim, although the company retains its headquarters within the city of Munich. But their current brewery, which is the Weisses Brauhaus zu Kelheim, is actually the oldest wheat beer brewery in Bavaria, and it's been a brewery since the year 1607 when it was erected by Duke Maximilian I, and this of course was when it hosted the Kurfürstliches Hofbräuhaus, but it has belonged to the Schneider family since 1928. But today the company is quite big. They employ around 100 different people, and they distribute their beers all across Germany and to 27 countries abroad. Their annual output is around 300,000 hectolitres of beer per year, and probably the most common beers that you're going to find from these guys would be the Tap 6, which is the Unser Aventinus. As I said, that one really is a classic when it comes to the Weizenbock style of beer. That's one of the kind of benchmark beers, and they also have the Tap 5, which is either called Mein Hopfenweiss or Unser Hopfenweiss. I think it's Mein Hopfenweiss actually, and that of course is just a bit of a benchmark when it comes to Weizen beers as well. But all of the other beers are supposed to be really good. They do have one, I believe, that was brewed with Edelweiss flowers as well, which was Unser Grün, Unser Grün or something like that, which is meant to be quite an interesting one. So I do need to try and review some of the more regular ones, but like I say, if I'm living in Sweden and I'm living in between Sweden and Scotland, you're not going to come across many other than the Aventinus or the Hopfenweiss, so I will try and get a hold of some of the other ones the next time I'm over in Germany. But that's all you need to know about the brewery just now. If you want to read a little bit more about the different beers of the brewery itself, as I said, the links are in the video description below, so make sure you check those out, and do check out my friend Peter over at The Clueless Drinker as well. But we'll get on to the tasting section of this video itself. So I'll just let you have a little look at the artwork of this one before we open it up then. There you can see the classic Schneider Weisse symbol there. If I bring that right up to the camera, you can see really nicely presented beer, this one. Just a plain bottle cap on this. Usually they do have a bottle cap saying exactly what beer it is. You can see this one is the 2017 edition with the limited edition. You can actually age this beer a little bit longer, but with my experience that I have of New Zealand hops and the Nelson Sauvin, I think you get a lot more out of them if you drink them fresh, and this beer will be fairly fresh. I bought this one, I think, from Getranke Osse in Munich. So yeah, it says on the back here, a fascinating combination of freshness, fruitiness and elegance. Brewed with rare Nelson Sauvin hops from New Zealand, this bottle fermented wheat beer reminds of an expressive, vibrant Sauvignon Blanc. An exotic flowery nose is balanced by a malty spiciness, light sour fruitness and a fine bitter finish. Pairs very well with pickled vegetables, parma ham, pasta, creamy ripe cheese and fruity desserts. Enjoy this refreshing brew, Georg IV Schneider. So yeah, really interesting beer this. We'll take this off and we'll get it open then. I'm really looking forward to this, and I'll definitely be keeping this little card. So yeah, let's get it out and we'll get on with the tasting then. Hopefully this isn't one of these big mad bottle caps that's difficult to get off, and it doesn't seem to be. So yeah, we'll just take that off there. It's actually got one of these little rubber things inside of it as well, and it's kind of one of these bottles that you could cork. So let's get this guy out and we'll get on to the tasting then. You can smell some of this lovely wheaty character coming out of the beer as we open it up. Now normally you would actually drink this beer out of a Weizen glass. Of course I actually don't have a proper German Weizen glass, but I have to admit I do like these tulip glasses because they do give you a really kind of good all-round thing when it comes to beer. These ones are very good for picking up the aromas and for encouraging you to sip, particularly when you're tasting beer. So some of the Germans watching the video might be a bit alarmed that I'm not actually drinking this out of the Weizen glass, but it should be still as good in this little tulip glass here. But as you can see, this beer's poured a really nice, quite bright orange colour. It's a kind of blood orange colour rather than anything, and it is really hazy, which is what you expect from a Weizen beer. You can see if I put my fingers behind the glass here, there's not much in the way of a transparency to that. That is almost completely opaque. I can see a little bit of the light just being blocked by my fingers as I put them behind the glass. But yeah, fairly opaque beer, this one. There's a solid finger of a frothy, pretty much pure white head. There's a little bit of a creamy tint to it, but I think it's fair to say it is kind of a pure, brilliant white, I guess. And you can see there's a lot of little bubbles just sticking towards the side of the glass, and quite a few just going up towards the bottom of the head there. But overall, you know, it does look pretty much what you would expect from a Weizen beer or a Weizen Bock. Usually the Weizen Bocks are a little bit darker, but I don't think I've seen one that is quite as orange as that. Usually they do lean a little bit more towards the kind of caramelly colour. But yeah, it looks really nice, so we'll take a closer look at the aroma then and see how we get on. Yeah, that smells really nice. So straight away you get the notes that you expect of a Weizen beer. You've got some of these nice big, doughy, bready banana yeast notes that you would expect. There's a nice bit of clovey spice, a little bit of that bubblegum note as well. Oddly enough, there's not too much in the way of that white grapey aroma that you would expect from the Nelson Sauvin. You can get a little bit of it, but it's really not quite as prominent as you would think. But I guess when it's a Weizen beer, from when I've homebrewed Weizen beers, usually they have a lot less hop in them than some of the things like IPAs. So that might explain why the hoppy aroma doesn't come out all that much. I mean, you can get a little bit of that typical kind of grassy, sort of spicy floral aromaticity that you would get, and you can pick up a little bit of that nice kind of light white grapey sort of thing. But overall, I mean, there isn't too much of that white grapey character coming out. It's really a more malt forward beer, but like I said, that's what you expect from any beer that has Weizen in the name, and particularly from the Weizen Bock, I guess, as well. You can smell a little bit of a nice kind of caramel note to this. It has a little bit of that toasted caramelly character, maybe even a little bit of biscuit, but mainly it does smell like a nice Weizen beer, this. As I say, some of the nice wheaty, doughy, sort of yeasty character coming out of it. A little bit of spice, a kind of clovey note coming off of it. Some white bread, and a little bit of that nice kind of toasted caramel, and a bit of the bubblegum aroma that you would expect as well. So to me, when it says Nelson Sauvin on it, I would expect a little bit more from the aroma of it, but as I said, the Weizen beers do tend to be more malt forward and yeast forward, I guess, than they will be hoppy, just from my experience of home brewing them. But it does smell really quite nice. If you just consider it as a wheat beer or a Weizen in the aroma, it does have a really cracking aroma to it. It's got quite a strong It's got a nice strong caramelly note just underpinning it all, and then you've got these lovely Weizen characteristics on top of that. So as I always say, just take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma of the beer before you actually taste it. That's half the experience when it comes to things like craft beer and whiskey and sake and stuff like that, and especially when you've got a special beer like this from one of the kind of traditional German breweries. There's a lot to be learned from it. So without further ado then, let's actually get stuck into this beer. So this one is the Tap X Nelson Sauvin from the Schneider Weisse Brauhaus, or Brewery I guess I should say, in Kelheim near Munich in Bavaria. Let's get stuck into this beer. Prost! Oh yeah. That's a pretty damn good beer actually. That's just really interesting how it goes together. It's got, I mean, when you have a wheat beer that has something like Nelson Sauvin in it, you do expect it to be, in my previous experience, the kind of beers I've had like that have been these like American wheat beers and New Zealand wheat beers. And they just don't have the same kind of yeasty and malty base that the German ones do. It's a completely different style of beer. So to have a proper German wheat beer with a bit of New Zealand hop in it, it's really quite an unusual thing. I mean, in the 1,100 videos I've done now, this one, even now, is quite an unusual beer to me, but it's really pretty damn good. And you wouldn't expect anything else from a brewery that is as well known as this, of course. Yeah, that's a really damn good beer. I mean, when it comes to traditional beers, the Germans have it mastered. I think probably my favourite type of traditional beer has to be the German beers. And the Weizen beers, I have to admit, when I lived in Germany, when I was studying at Heidelberg, I loved Weizens before I went across there. And when I actually went over to live in Germany, I got more into the Helles style of things. And I didn't drink the Weizens as much as I thought I would when I was over there. But I think the Weizen for me is a beer that I like to go to every so often and just enjoy, because to me it just feels a little bit heavier. And when you treat them like that, I think if you have them every so often rather than drinking them all the time, I think you get a lot more out of these than you would normally. But this is a lovely, lovely beer. And to me it's definitely a treat rather than one you're going to drink all the time. But yes, I always say, especially with the more complex beers like this, just sugar it around your palate and let your whole mouth adjust before you start analysing the flavour too much. But it's fair to say this is a damn good beer, and the rating that it has on Rate Beer is pretty much spot on. As I said, take Rate Beer with a pinch of salt, but they've got it spot on for this one. So yeah, in the middle of your palate then, where you're going to get all the malty and yeasty characteristics, you can feel a little bit of that light kind of white bread just underpinning this beer. On top of that, you start to get this kind of doughy, yeasty character that you expect of a German Weizen. You can feel a little bit of the clovey spice just as the flavour progresses a little bit. You can feel a little bit of that just kind of sitting on the top of your tongue. Right down the middle of your palate, you get that slightly kind of biscuity, caramelly note that you expect with it being a Weizenbock rather than a straight out Weizen. But it's a really nice beer. I can't remember, it doesn't quite have the darkness to it that you would expect, that you would normally get from the Aventinus, but then again this is a little bit lighter than the Aventinus. I think the Aventinus is maybe 8.2% or 8%, maybe 7.8%. Somewhere in that region. This one's 7.3, so it's not quite as heavy as that, and it will be a completely different recipe, to be honest. I was thinking maybe they used the Aventinus recipe and just changed the hops or something like this for this beer, but going by the flavours, it's completely different. But it's really, really nice, and you just get that kind of banana-y flavour. You can feel it. There's a point in the flavour of this when you just get a little bit of that banana, bready, almost bubblegummy flavour. I can feel it now. You've seen how long it was since I took a sip. That banana bubblegummy flavour just comes out towards the front of the tongue there. And there's not many other ways you can describe this beer other than being really pretty damn beautiful. So on the hoppy side of things with this, in the back corners of the palate, There's a nice little bit of kind of earthiness in there. I do wonder with this if they've used a little bit of German noble hop as the kind of bittering hop, and then they've added the Nelson Sauvin a wee bit later on. I'm guessing here, of course. But I do wonder if there is just a bit of German noble hop in here, because there's a little bit of that earthiness there in the back corners of the palate, and as you come further forward, there's a wee bit of that kind of typical German noble sort of floral aromaticity to the beer as well. And then round the front curve of the palate you get these nice lighter, almost lemongrassy characters. It has a good bit of noble hop quality to it, but again you can feel a little bit of that slightly stronger spicy floral character that you would expect with the Nelson Sauvin, just simply because it is one of these higher alpha acid hops. But of course, the distinctive characteristic of the Nelson Sauvin really is that kind of white grapey character that you get out of it. So if you just go behind the very front curve of your tongue, you'll feel that little oily bubble that I always talk about, where these fruity esters come out. And with this one, because it's a Weizen, there is a little bit of that almost lemony, citrusy character, but really, as you start to move into the aftertaste, you can really pick up that nice white grapey note that you're going to pick up from the Nelson Sauvin. There's almost a little bit of a gooseberry character to it as well, but really it's white grapes, green grapes that you're going to get from the fruity side of this beer. But that's damn good. I mean, make no mistake about this. This is a special beer. One, because it's from one of the really traditional breweries in Germany, one of the oldest Weiss beer breweries in the world, and also it's got the Nelson Sauvin hop, which really is one of the kind of pinnacles, I guess, of the kind of new wave of craft beers that are coming on. It's just a really distinctive hop, and it's probably, you know, it's one of the things that really got New Zealand on the craft beer map, actually. There's a lot of really good hop varieties down there, but Nelson Sauvin is probably the kind of the flag carrier, if you like. I think it's fair to say that. But there's not much else you can say about this beer other than it is a really, really damn good Weizenbock. I mean, it has everything you'd expect, the nice kind of typical Weizen wheaty character. There's a little bit of the kind of caramelly character that you would expect with it being a Weizenbock rather than a Weizen, and then the way that it has a little bit of that German noble hop quality as well, but a little bit more kind of floral spicy note, and some of those lovely green grapey characters that you expect of the Nelson Sauvin. I mean, it kind of does, I think the way to sum up this beer is that it does everything you would expect from what it says on the tin, if that makes sense. It's just a really damn solid Weizenbock. It's a proper traditional German beer, this, with just a little bit of a New Zealand twist. So, you know, huge thumbs up to the Schneider Weisse Brauerei for this one. This is a damn good beer. In terms of the mouthfeel of this one then, I think it's fair to say that this one, I think it's a full-bodied beer, this. It does actually feel really quite thick, but then again, this might be a point where we say, oh, every beer to every person is subjective. I always find Weizens and Weizenbocks to be quite heavy in the body. For me, the carbonation's very soft. The mouthfeel has a little bit of oily character to it, but it also has a little bit of that kind of chalkiness that you expect, that kind of smooth, chalky character that you expect of a Weizenbock. The malt base and the yeasty characters are very, very smooth. There is a little bit of sweetness to it. There's not really an alcohol warmth to this beer. You do get a little bit of alcohol warmth from the likes of the Aventinus, which is a slightly stronger Weizenbock. There's a nice little bit of hoppy bitterness, but it's not going to blow your head in terms of IBUs, this one. And there's a nice little bit of that juicy fruitiness. The Nelson Sauvin you really are going to start to notice in the aftertaste of this beer. But the way to sum this one up is that it's an absolutely cracking beer. A classic German Weizenbock, just with a little bit of a New Zealand hop twist to it that comes out particularly in the aftertaste. So yeah, a really, really damn good beer, and you know, a very simple concept, but it's one that they've done very, very well, and you wouldn't expect anything else from the Schneider Weisse Brauerei. So I'm really glad that I got to try this one for you here on the channel, and I hope you've enjoyed my take on this. So if you get the chance to try this beer, I highly recommend that you do it. If you're particularly into Weizen beers and you haven't come across the Schneider Weisse Brauerei, these guys are one of the kind of flag carriers when it comes to Weizen beer, if you like. You really have to try the Aventinus and the Hopfenweiss as well. The Hopfenweiss is one that I still need to review for you at some point on the channel, but I can promise you I will be getting that done. But this one was the Tap X Nelson Sauvin from the Schneider Weisse Brauerei from Kelheim to the north of Munich in Germany. An absolutely cracking beer. So yeah, once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Do let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below if you've tried it for yourself. Do let me know what your favourite beers are from the Schneider Weisse Brewery as well. But until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Do check out my social media. Check out my friend Peter over at The Clueless Drinker as well. Like I said, he reviews a lot of German beers, both traditional and the new wave craft beers. But this one was an absolutely cracking beer, and it's been a pleasure to review this for you. So if you get the chance, try the Tap X Nelson Sauvin from the Schneider Weisse Brewery in Kelheim. Prost, and I will catch you guys very soon. Slàinte just now.